After the Toronto Raptors' embarrassing and demoralizing loss to the Houston Rockets, trade reports have been escalating over the past 24 hours or so, and frankly, how could they not? Anyone that watched that game, anyone that watched highlights of the game, probably anyone that just looked at the box score of that game could see something's off with this team, and likely it means something's going on behind the scenes, and given all the context of the trades that just happened, the sort of split in this group, it's likely some trade stuff. So we'll break down all of the latest regarding the Toronto Raptors trade scenarios. Additionally, Stephen A. Smith has come out and supported Scottie Barnes. He's back in Scottie Barnes after he was snubbed from the All-Star game this year. And yes, I get the winning stuff and things like that, but with Julius Randle and Joel Embiid likely out for the All-Star game, there's been a lot of speculation about who's going to be brought in terms of the short list of guys that were snubbed in the Eastern Conference. Some of the initial reporting indicated that there were some shaky names out there ahead of Scottie Barnes in terms of potential replacements, which I got fired up about, but Stephen A. Smith had a lot to say about that sort of situation. So lots of stuff to dive into in this video, but before we do, folks, again, over 58% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel. We want to keep you up to date with all the latest Toronto Raptors news, so it'd mean the world to me if you guys could hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys watching as always. But let's dive into the news. The first thing we're going to take a look at is Stephen A. Smith back in Scottie Barnes after getting snubbed. Now, Stephen A. Smith is a guy who rarely talks highly of anything regarding the Toronto Raptors. When we won the championship, he said how disappointed he was about the chip going to Toronto. It should never happen again. They shouldn't have star players. It's a hockey country. All those types of things. And he wants the championship in the United States. And he's had some shaky sort of criticism, some shaky takes regarding Toronto Raptors players in the past. So, there's been a lot of criticism thrown the way of Stephen A. Smith, just how he covers the Toronto Raptors and how he covers Raptors players. And we get it. No one's going to watch all the games and all the teams. He has to talk about all these sports and stuff. But he's made some rough takes regarding the Toronto Raptors and often disrespectful takes to this team. So, again, it's rare do we see things come out that are really positive from Stephen A, for a Toronto Raptor player. And it happened. It ended up happening sort of yesterday. Basically, Stephen A. Smith on his show came out and discussed the Eastern Conference All-Star reserves and how, players are going to come in and get replaced and stuff like that. And on the short list of players, particularly that he described as potentially coming in, he particularly went in a little divergence, talked about Kristaps Porzingis there as a player that he's thought about, obviously with the Knick connections. I would be shocked if he named Kristaps Porzingis or gave any respect to him whatsoever, but he said he's been debating between two guys really in terms of who he'd like to see come in and get that spot, and it's between Scottie Barnes and Trae Young. And frankly, I think Trae Young was snubbed as well. He's averaging like 30 and 10. I don't have his stats specifically pulled up, but he's having a monster season. Sure, the Hawks are losing as well, but I mean, he's put up some ridiculous numbers. There's been some turmoil in Atlanta. He doesn't have that great of a team around him. I mean, Trae Young has been awesome. If he makes over Scottie Barnes, I'm not going to be that disappointed. But Stephen A. Smith basically said, even out of those two guys, he'd probably run the route of Scottie Barnes. Talked about all of the trades and the transitions that have gone on with this team, and Scottie Barnes has remained solid, even though he definitely was, no, I don't want to say a downward trajectory, but he's not putting up the same numbers he was earlier this year at the same efficiency. But I guess that makes sense when the defense is more focused and locked in on you. But he said, even though the Raptors are losing a little bit, the Toronto Raptors, Scottie Barnes should be an all-star this year. How he's a guy that's developing, potential face of the league. That's what Darko Rajakovic sort of said. Stephen A. Smith had some criticism in that regard when Darko had those types of comments. But gave some praise to Scottie Barnes, so I appreciate that. Always appreciate the Toronto Raptors love. Now, his argument he made, again, in this video for why it should be over Trae Young didn't really make sense. He basically said that Trae Young was on a losing team. Now, he did go on to say that, they're losing because their defense isn't great, and Scottie's a two-way guy, and Trae Young is a guy that's horrible on defense, and his team needs defense, so he's not providing what the team needs to specifically win, whereas the Toronto Raptors are in sort of a different influx scenario and don't have all that talent and stuff. So he did give some context to it, but I did find it funny that the Raptors are worse than the Atlanta Hawks so far this year, and that was the main reason as to why Stephen A. Smith chose Scottie Barnes over Trae Young. But, Scottie Barnes getting love from anyone, I appreciate it. I was pretty shocked when we saw the names of Miles Turner, Derek White get listed in terms of the next up players, for that all-star selection, even though Derek White, they're on better teams this season, but there is a line. There's a line between playing good and stats and all those types of things, and Scottie Barnes has the stats to be significantly better than the fifth best player on the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. That's just my take, but, I know people get fired up about all that type of stuff. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think about all that. But the next thing we're taking a look at is Raptors trade reports escalating. As I said in the intro, how could they not? Again, I know looking at the comment section, not a lot of people are watching Toronto Raptors games at this point because why would you? The team sucks right now and they're playing sort of disheartened. And last night was probably the worst sort of display we've seen from this team all season long, with the exception of maybe a couple of the games leading up to especially the Pascal Siakam deal. OG Anunoby really struggled before he got traded to the New York Knicks, but now it feels like the whole roster has that sort of, even though there were some good games, I mean, Quickly was pretty solid, Scottie Barnes was pretty solid, but again, not playing that the team as a whole just looked out of it, looked zapped of energy, looked demoralized. And that was sort of the essence of the players that were out there on the court prior to the past Pascal Siakam trades, heck, even going back previous years when big deals end up going down. Because obviously the players hear rumblings before these deals actually happen. Now, we're getting more and more reports coming out. Basically, the first one is from Doug Smith, who's said after the Toronto Raptors' brutal loss, the hybrid of veterans and rookies isn't working for Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster, and they must be mulling over some more roster moves. He discussed how, again, the two guys, the main top dogs in the front office, there's a lot of pieces on this team, specifically Dennis Schroeder, specifically Bruce Brown, specifically, even Thaddeus Young here now at this point, are all three guys, that have been notably thrown out in trade discussions. Pirtle's been sprinkled in a few of these later reports recently, and basically, those are guys we can all expect multiple deals to end up happening. Chris Boucher doesn't even play now at this point, despite the Raptors being depleted at the forward spots. And the most direct thing that Doug Smith sort of revealed is how the front office is definitely not happy with the lack of minutes guys like Wara and Grady Dick are sort of getting, not breaking the 20-minute mark, I believe, in last night's game, or getting a ton of runs. So, watch for some moves to potentially open up some minutes for the guys that the front office thinks have some potential to really break out for this team in the future. So let me know what you guys think about that. Additionally, we have a report coming from Mark Stein. I wasn't able to grab the screenshot of it, but basically the Knicks still interested first round pick. The Toronto Raptors aren't stepping back from their first round pick that they're demanding in a potential Bruce Brown trade offer. They're going to wait to the trade deadline to make something go down. So that's coming from Mark Stein. And then a guy that has hurt his credibility as of late, particularly this season, but Matt Moore has been making more definitive takes. But he had a report basically talking about the Lakers and Bruce Brown and the Knicks and things, but basically that the LA Lakers had to at least get temporarily moved away from talks for Toronto Raptors guard Bruce Brown, who they had interest in at the deadline last year. This continues to be nothing billowing after the DeJounte Murray, all those reports that have been coming out, with the Hawks potentially trading him to the Lakers. Been lots of drama along those lines. And then Mark Stein, again, D'Angelo Russell's strong play. He's less likely to potentially get dealt. And then back to Bruce Brown. The Knicks continue to be mentioned as a potential landing spot, but New York has been seeking bigger deals. Brown might end up being the plan B or plan C option for the New York Knicks. An outside source has suggested. But with the Raptors' notoriously high offer marks for various assets, the finally trades of Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby have not erased skepticism that the Raptors will be tough to a team to trade value from. So, again, that seems a bit speculation, and Matt Moore has been a little bit more of a sketchier source as of late, but I definitely believe the last paragraph in terms of front offices, it seems very conjecture-based. It's not something that's solidified in terms of trade talks or something like that, but I can definitely see, other teams still being skeptical about being finessed by Masai Ujiri and potential trade topics. But does that mean I think Bruce Brown's going to stay? No. I don't think the Knicks are going to pull off some crazy trade here now at this point. Again, there's lots of rumors about Jordan Clarkson, Kelly Olynyk. Check out Knicks Digest. They're covering things like crazy down there on that channel. But, I mean, Bruce Brown is probably the best type of fit that a Tom Thibodeau-led team could potentially land out there on the open market for a reasonable price. So keep your eyes peeled for the New York Knicks being a squad that potentially makes a trade with the Toronto Raptors. But let me know what you guys think about all this Toronto Raptors news. You guys are best making this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.